What living thing do you feel close affinity with?
It's always a tricky question. I think it changes quite often in terms of what animal best represents. And you could go for like the big sexy stuff. Um, but I think probably at the minute I'm some kind of communal invertebrate like a wood ant because we're kind of all working on little bits to build something big. And I don't know the extreme science behind wood ants, but I know they're very important to an ecosystem. And what we're doing here at Wild Finca is on a small scale, so like an ant. But what we're really trying to push is that there's this kind of myth about rewilding. I think that they think it's like apart from people. Um, so when actually we're very much part of the habitat, and we can be ecosystem engineers in a good way and a bad way. In some areas, we're invasive species, I guess. But the way we see ourselves here is that we are part of the environment, um, and like us doing our little bits helps everything else. Some bits we are completely hands off, but other bits we are kind of like chipping away and being the engineer. So yeah, I mean, wood ants, they're amazing because when you see them here, we have a few different nests that I know of, and they're these just like massive structures, but the actual creature's like this big, and they're always working away. And even now on a sunny day in February, they'll kind of like they come out, so they're always working away, even if you can't see them.
What is your favorite memory in nature?
That's a really tough one. Um, I've been very, I mean, I grew up in the UK, and we didn't really go on many exotic holidays, but we had like a great uncle die, sadly, obviously, but he was very old. And with the inheritance, my parents took us to Canada, um, and I think seeing like orcas and all the stuff that I'd seen on TV actually in real life, that's always like a lasting memory. And I think I was like 9 when we did that, and now I'm 33. And since then, I've been very lucky to like from the age of 17, basically travel all over the world, seeing incredible things. So it's really hard to pick one particular moment. I could do like a real quick top three. I don't think I could choose one. I'd say top three, a really quick top three would be. So I was working in Zambia filming leopards for 3 months. So I got to spend every day with a leopard and her two cubs. It was pretty amazing. But there was one particular afternoon where we hadn't found them. And normally, what I'd do is go hang out with the baboons because the baboons would alarm call. Um, and the day before, I'd seen this baboon troop, and there was this baboon that was like dead, basically. It was like dragging itself along. They're communal animals, so they're all together. Anyway, so we're sat by these baboons, and they're kind of like mooching their way across the plain, going up a tree. And yeah, basically all the young ones are up in this sausage tree playing. And then suddenly the female leopard, who was actually the older cub of the leopard I was filming, just burst out of the bush, went straight up this tree. And these baboons were like leaping like 20 meters out of the tree to hit the ground, and the adults were going up the tree to chase them out, to like distract her. And I was like, "Wow, this is insane." I was taking all the pictures. And then out of nowhere, this like decrepit baboon that we'd seen the day before came out. And I mean, baboons, when there's a predator, make so much noise, like so much noise, so that everyone knows there's danger. And I still to this day don't know why it did it. But yeah, this baboon kind of just beeline towards the tree. And the leopard just obviously stopped chasing, looked, and just came down the tree and bang, killed it. And to this day, I feel like there's such a unit baboons, and I wonder if that baboon knew. And I don't like anthropomorphizing it, but they're not unintelligent beings. And that baboon definitely, it wasn't coming back from its state, right? It was like dragging its back legs. It was like completely disheveled, no teeth. And to this day, I wonder if it went and did that because it basically sacrificed itself for the rest of the troop. Because the baboon came down, the leopard came down, killed it, and all the other 120 baboons were safe. So it was like a sad, like insane thing to see, and quite sad, but at the same time, this kind of like, why did it do that? Because it could have just stayed in the bushes where it was, and probably that leopard would have eventually caught another baboon. But it literally came out and went straight to the tree. Probably a scientist would say that the baboon was so ill it was blind and deaf or something, and it didn't know what it was doing and went to the tree. But like, I think it was sacrificing itself for the good of the tree.
What got you interested in nature?
It's really cliche because I think so many people say it, but like I've always been interested in wildlife, and I think generally, like now having kids, like all kids are interested in wildlife. like from day dot. Well, maybe not when they're tiny, tiny baby, but like there's like a natural curiosity for nature. And unfortunately, a lot of people lose that. So I guess I've always been interested in nature. And then my mum was like an avid gardener. And even though we grew up in a city, we had like quite a nice garden, and mum would be out in the garden, and I'd be, well, at the time I probably thought I was helping, but now as a father, I don't think, because now I suffer the same thing. But I was there, I was present in the soil. I used to have my sisters always tell a story of like confiscating animals off me. It was quite cruel, but I guess Gerald Durrell and people like that did it, right? I remember they tell a story of getting a goldfish bowl out of our really hot loft that was next door to my bedroom with this poor frog that I'd got from the garden, just chucked in the water and like had in the goldfish bowl for an afternoon. But I think that was like a natural curiosity to like be close and have nature. I was actually really obsessed with fish. I still am. Like, and I've managed to indoctrinate my children into it. Like any patch of water, bridge, harbour, whatever, we're on the edge looking in to see what fish we can see. So I had loads of aquariums in my room and bred fish and like did stuff like like that. But yeah, but nature was always there. Birds growing up in the UK, that's like the main thing is birds.
How did you get started in this line of work?
I knew from quite an early age that I wanted to do something with wildlife. I don't know what. I guess when I was younger, I just wanted a job with wildlife, whether that was going to be, I think, marine biology because of the fish thing that like floated around. Um, and then, yeah, when I was 12, I started picking up a camera. My sister was doing photography at college. So I'd take that. And at age 12, 13, I started volunteering at a local nature reserve as well. So that was kind of when I realized about habitat management and those kind of things, but also realized I could take pictures of the wildlife that I was telling people about. So I had those like two paths going alongside each other at the same time. Then I picked up a little bit of guiding when I was like 17. I really enjoy telling people about wildlife. Like that's my big passion, is like getting them out into nature and showing them it. I think I get a real buzz from that. But yeah, basically I went to university and did wildlife conservation for a year, but actually ended up dropping out um, because it was kind of remarkable I got into university in the first place. Like basically as soon as I passed my driving test and like hit sixth form, my grades, like you can see actually in my, like, I don't know what they're called, like your AS levels, my grades were like okay, and then my actual A levels I got like CDE or something. So it's something terrible. And I don't know how. There's still a bit of me, like I have lasting friends from university, but I think I didn't expect to get into university and didn't really want to go. I don't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to just be out there in nature. And I realized in that first year of university, we only did 1 week's field course, and it wasn't even that like exciting. It was just on campus, and it wasn't like full on. Yeah, I just had itchy feet, so that's where I dropped out to get out there doing it, and then I haven't really stopped since then, and that's 12 years ago.
What do you define as rewilding?
I don't think there should be one definition for rewilding, although there is, like by the UN or whatever, there is like an official terminology of rewilding. But I think the world, as we all know, is so large and the habitat's so different. I think rewilding can be done in so many different ways. Um, and in some areas, I think it can be that complete hands off. Basically, our definition at Wild Thinker is rewilding is interpreted as the process of restoring and protecting natural processes and core wilderness areas, providing connectivity between such areas and safeguarding wildlife. It's about allowing nature to take care of itself as much as possible, while also recognizing humans as part of the ecosystem. This involves repairing damaged ecosystems and restoring degraded landscapes. Through rewilding, the natural rhythms of wildlife create wilder, more diverse habitats. Our aim with rewilding is not only the restoration of ecosystems to their natural functioning with a full suite of appropriate species, but also the integration of sustainable organic food production and provision of livelihoods where land is suitable. This holistic approach ensures a balance between nature conservation and human needs. I think like here, it's changed a bit since we first moved here, but definitely in the last year, I'm really driven to um, spark something in the people.
Why did you get into rewilding?
In terms of how I got into it was growing up in the UK, especially, like seeing the kind of traditional nature conservation practices, which are very much needed in certain areas. There's certain habitats that need to be actually relatively heavily managed. Like the nature reserve I used to volunteer at was a Victorian watercress bed. So it's only actually a habitat that was created 200 years ago. It was chalk. And they have these artesian wells that keep the water at like 12 degrees all year. And obviously, historically, they farmed watercress to give people, I think it's to stop people getting scurvy or something. So it's close to London, so you could ship the watercress into London really quickly. But obviously now it's not used for that. And it's become this haven for wildlife. It's only 2 hectares, but it has to be managed really heavily. Ironically, the watercress has to be raked up into these piles to keep the lagoons clear so that the birds can feed, basically. So that's obviously not rewilding. Like it's all human led management. Um, but seeing the UK and the damage that's been done, and then moving here to northern Spain and seeing, I always say we're like 25, 30 years behind the UK. Like the intensification of agriculture here is like rocketing up. I see it daily. Like my neighbours have been strimming, and I don't know what it's like, like a big chopper upper on the back of a tractor, all of the scrub for like the last 5 days. And thank goodness, I mean, they're doing it. I can't stop them doing that. At least they're doing it now, not in spring, because other people do it in spring here when all the birds are nesting. But I think seeing all that kind of thing was like, I want to do so. I want to like save a bit of land and get like nature back there. And rewilding is probably the best way of doing that because we're not managing a particular habitat. We want a mosaic of habitats. And by rewilding, you get that, I think. I think you get more of a mosaic of habitats. We're not going to plant 4 bajillion trees and turn it into a forest because we have a really good forest. But we're also not going to cut all the scrub back because we have nice bits of meadow and grassland. But the same way, we do want the scrub to take hold in other bits and trees come. And just kind of, I'm always amazed, like, what would this look like 20, 30,000 years ago? Like, I know there'd be some pretty amazing animals here because we have cave paintings just around the corner that are 25,000 years old. Obviously, pre-Ice Age, so they've got like big reindeer herds and stuff in the drawings. But the people that painted those would have walked wild finca. And there would have been aurochs, and they found woolly rhino and cave bear and stuff like that. And we have bear very nearby. We have wolf very, very, very nearby at the minute. I just found out last week we have a pair that if they survive the hunting season, like I can look out this window and I could be looking at a pair of wolves at the minute. So that's really exciting. So to have that like wildness on our doorstep. And that was probably actually one of my main motivations for moving here was that. Like I'm very impatient, and unfortunately I can't see wolf coming back in my lifetime in the UK. Maybe the odd lynx, but who knows? Because I don't think, I'm not going to go into politics, but I don't think that the governments have that kind of motivation at the forefront of their mind, unfortunately, even though I think that's probably the most important thing is kind of bringing nature back to the UK and making it a bit wilder, I think would help everyone.
Tell us about the vision for Wild Finca.
For me, it's getting people involved in nature because I generally believe, and obviously I am a bit biased, but I generally believe living here and seeing the potential is that it could be a nature-based economy and they could be providing food for people in an ecological, nature-friendly way. There's like 400,000 cows in Asturias or something. And unfortunately, I have 5 of them, but we use them for different purposes in terms of being the proxy auroch species here. But like not most, that's unfair, but those cows, okay, I do eat meat on a very small level, but like we all could stop eating meat or eat a lot less meat. So they're not actually, if all those cows stopped, I'm not saying all stop, no one would starve to death. But in terms of the other land uses like eucalyptus plantation stuff, they're all so short-sighted, the damage they're doing. And in my eyes, there's no real future for those industries and for who they employ. Whereas if my vision came true in terms of wild finca growing or getting other people on board with wild finca, like I'd love to employ within the next 3 years 2 Spanish ecologists. I'm English, I speak enough Spanish to get by, but I'm still not confident enough to guide adults. I can guide the class. That's probably my level of Spanish 5-year-olds and show them stuff. But I couldn't like delve in. I couldn't do what I'm doing now with you in Spanish, I don't think. But also, I don't think I'll ever gain the respect fully here because I am always going to see as a foreigner that's come in, and I don't want to be that foreigner saying, "Oh, this is what you should be doing." I don't agree with lots of things people are doing, but they don't agree with what I'm doing, and I think it's good. Like, like they'll do that, I'll do this, and we'll get on. But I think we could all look at nature as a way of helping.
What is the answer to overturn negative views on conservation?
It's not the answer just to fight nature. And I guess, yeah, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I basically wanted a bit of a Twitter rant yesterday about it. It's like, why are people not stopping and looking inwards at, like, how can we solve this without blaming wildlife and nature? But it's because of this detachment. Nature is seen as this separate thing that's like over there, and like because we don't maybe not know about it, it's like fear of the unknown. Well, it's nature's fault. I spoke to a guy up in the mountains, right? And he said, "Oh, they call bichos, like beasts." He said, "Are you looking for beasts?" Like that was his thing, and that was like his all-encompassing from a salamander to a bear. That was his like term. And I was like, "Yeah." And then he basically just unprompted, like, "Oh yeah, well, as long as they're not causing problems, they're fine." But it was that like causing problems. It's like, but we're nature, we're part of it.
What could be done to improve conservation efforts?
In Europe, I think 38% of land is farmed, right? So if you could get farmers on board in terms of nature, and it doesn't have to be like hardcore rewilding. I think this is a thing. It's like resetting people's brain. Is that rewilding isn't letting go. It isn't turning up with a lorry and releasing 400 wolves. You know, it can help everyone, and it could actually help your farm. Um, in terms of that side of things. So that's the adult side of things. But at the minute, we're not in a position to do that. And I don't think I am the right person here. My motivation more is for going with the kids, is that I can change their minds or get them hooked on it. And if the 28 kids that come in April, even if like ignoring my son, so that taking down to 27, even if 5 of them go and like have a spark that weekend they want to go out looking for nature with their mum and dad, and then mum and dad hopefully are like, "Oh well, if that's what the kids want to do, that's what we'll go and do." Then that's a success. And then just slowly, we live in this like paradise. I mean, they literally call it paraíso natural, Asturias paraíso natural. I kind of disagree because to me it is a paradise, but there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot of wrong with lots of landscapes here in the world. I think that you just got to take the good bits as well. I've got the University of Oviedo coming as well for the second time. And I think last time they brought 40 students, and they're zoology students, so they already have that, like, they're in it, right? Yeah, if you're a zoology student, you kind of got to be into nature, I'd hope. But that was brilliant. Like last time, like I looked behind me and I had this like snake of youth following behind me, all like, taking pictures of the butterflies and the reptiles and stuff we were finding. So all those little things are what keep me going. And I definitely know that can be scaled up tenfold, probably. If I could get 200 kids through the door here a year locally, that would be amazing.
What advice do you have for people looking to connect with nature?
It doesn't actually take a lot, no matter where you live. I know in some areas it may not be the safest place, and I'm very privileged in that way that I am the white male, basically. So I've never felt that as an issue. I've kind of gone everywhere. And there have been a few places I've been and I thought maybe I shouldn't have been going through there. But just getting out into it's not even, nature isn't a thing that you need to go to. It is kind of everywhere. Even like a bit of moss on the pavement is nature. It might not be the most inspiring, but it is nature. So I always think like bird song, natural sound, if you could get them in that and like immersed in it, or just go out and do it and see and hear that and listen. And that's like a wren. That's a really good one. If you can see a wren singing, they're literally like that big. And they sit there on the top of a bramble and they just like, and their tongue like goes for it. And this like, I don't even know how many decibels it is from this tiny little thing, like louder than a Bluetooth speaker. And it's a brilliant song. A little bit of mist coming out of their mouth or their beak.
Why did you choose to do small scale rewilding?
Our main motivation for doing small scale rewilding was simply uh, feasibility and achievability, I guess, would be the two words. Like we realized we couldn't, well, you can do like macro scale rewilding on a balcony, but we did want to do, for us, this is very large scale, right? We're at like 13 hectares of land now. So that's like 25 acres. but it's not, your NEPs or your landscape scale rewilding, but it's our landscape. We could never afford to do it in the UK. Like we just couldn't buy land. Um, we didn't need to live in the UK either. So living here is a great plus on that side of things. But the small scale side of it, I guess, is because even here we couldn't afford to do large scale rewilding. And although I feel like it might even be more work at the moment than large scale rewilding, because we have to be a lot more hands on. There's a lot more moving parts. We can't have as many animals, so we only have 4 horses and 5 cows at the minute. But the cow number will fluctuate. It's only because one of the cows just had a baby, and then we're going to sell one of the other cows because she's a bit cheeky, um, and she's not the best to have around kids and stuff. Um, but yeah, so having that, like those animals, obviously they do their job. They're the proxy tarpan and auroch, but we still have to, on large scale, you could have like 30 horses and 50 cows, and they'd kind of do all the trampling and smashing through. So sometimes I have to be the auroch. I've got one more day. My friend comes and we like smash through bits of scrub. So we're doing that on Friday. And we've basically done one day a month for the last 2 months, just kind of little bits, opening up areas. But for small scale rewilding to work, you've got to do that. There's an amazing nature reserve, rewilding project called Underhill Wood. I think it's in Somerset or Dorset, but anyone should check that out. But he doesn't have any livestock, and he does all of it himself, and he must be, he must be working all the time. He has like a special rotavator to be the. Luckily, we have wild boar here to like turn over the soil and do that, and like the trampling and stuff. He has special machines. He cuts certain areas of land to kind of be the grazer. So yeah, I mean, small scale rewilding for us, that was the most obvious thing to do. At first, we did complete hands off, and it didn't really work. And then we got the livestock. We had sheep. That didn't really work. And then when the horses came, we still tried to do like unfenced areas on small scale, and that didn't work because they just smashed areas that too much, and it was unnatural. So now we are like the wolf, that we've like parceled it up and we move the animals around kind of on rotation, depending on the weather, depending on the season. Um, so the land reacts in different ways, and then watch how the land reacts. And that's still changing. We're going into year 6, and I'm taking down fencing that we put up like 2.5 years ago. We're making bigger blocks, but that was always going to happen because we've grown. So when we took the place on, it was only 5 hectares. So we're nearly 3 times the size of when we took it on. So the areas that I'd made into smaller blocks to only put the animals in for a day, we can now open up into the three separate blocks, can be one block again, and the animals are in it for 3 days, but then they don't come back for 6 weeks. Or we might want to graze it a bit harder. There's an area, for example, where I let them basically churn up the ground a little bit, because every year it's full of solitary bees. They go in the bare earth, and if it was covered in grass, the solitary bees wouldn't be able to get into it. But that is the same as an auroch or a tarpan. A big herd would have gone through, and it's wet and mushed it up. So it's reacting to that. So it's small scale rewilding, but it's large scale brain work. I don't know. I don't know.
Tell us about any projects that the land has responded to really well.
I dug 32 ponds last year. Well, I did like 20 ponds in an area, ephemeral ponds, so they fill with rainwater and eventually dry out. But yeah, I dug more. So I think there's 32 in that patch now. Just some little ones, bigger ones, deep ones. Basically, every single one is full of tadpoles at the minute. The boar have been wallowing on the edge of them. We've had green woodpeckers bathing in them. Herons come and eating the frogs. And that's in one season, like as in from last winter to this winter. So when you actually make the space and do it, like it's very exciting.
What's the vision for Wild Finca?
Wild Finca is obviously it's in its infancy, right? We're only going to year 6, but like I guess we're growing exponentially every year, which is exciting. My target is only 25 hectares. Is like that's it, and I'm done. Like I don't think we need to go any bigger. Financially, that's kind of realistic, perhaps over 10 years. We said 10 years, and then we're surrounded kind of on the northwest side by communal land that no one uses, which is I think like 30 hectares in total. So if you add that in, then you're talking 50 hectares. And that's like naturally rewilding. We have loads of good species up there. Um, so in terms of size, it's 25 hectares, and then we're not really like in rewilding. You shouldn't work for one particular species in mind, and we're seeing what comes. But we're creating more ponds, and as we get more parcels of land, I try and get a minimum of a pond per kind of 1,000, 2,000 square meters. We should have a pond in that area, or at least a water body. And we've already seen like just having the ponds has like changed wildfinker hugely. I always go on about ponds, but in terms of even just bringing in migratory birds, but the invertebrates, the frogs, the amphibians, that's been a real like buzz. We've got friends living over the valley at the minute, and he says even now, and he hasn't even seen it in spring yet. But when you walk the footpath round, it's almost like the sound levels increase as you approach wildfinker already. And now we're seeing that these like last few days, because it's warming up a little bit here, it's like that the birds know spring is coming. It's really exciting. I did a film the other day for Instagram. I was feeding the cows. I go up and just give them a bale of hay each day, and it was like silent. We don't have any human noise, and it was just like just birds singing. And that was at like 10 o'clock in the morning. So seeing that is really exciting. But I guess for us, people probably think like, well, how are you going to survive? In all honesty, like, so my big thing is giving opportunities for people, and if we could employ people, that'd be amazing.
Tell us about the retreats.
We've just done like an online rewilding retreat, but now in hindsight, I don't know if retreat was the right word, but we had like great community of people on it, because I guess it was a retreat. People were coming away from their daily lives and learning about rewilding, but it was like a really kind of in-depth look at what we're doing at Wildfinker and reconnecting people with nature. So we just did an autumn one, we've just done a winter one. We want to do a spring one, and then we're doing a few in-person ones this year as well, where people can actually come out and reconnect. And I guess I'm calling myself like a rewilder and rewilding consultant, because I guess like that sounds like blowing my own trumpet. It's like imposter syndrome, but it's not, because I've been doing this for 6 years now, every day for 6 years. I'm beginning to know what I'm doing, and I'd like to help other people do it. And if they have the resources to get me on board, that means we can grow Wildfinker and give those opportunities as well. So we're doing like a real mix. We don't have accommodation on site, but we're working with local hotels to get people here. And then also that has a wider effect of people are coming here to do rewilding and see nature.
Tell us about the October retreat with Sam Lee.
Well, I worked with him a good few years ago on Singing with Nightingales when I was making the documentary, and we've kind of been chatting ever since. And we bump into each other at random events in normally very non-nature places. I think the last event we met at was like in a gallery in Mayfair or something like that. And we went for a beer afterwards, and we were like, "You got to come out." And yeah, last year he came out, and he kind of gets it, loves the Wildfinker thing. And we said, "Well, let's try and do something together." We're running these retreats already, the online ones. Let's try and do an actual physical one. So yeah, in next or this autumn now, we're running one here, but so you'll be staying across the valley at this place called Posada del Valle, which is like an eco hotel in kind of 7 hectares of land, and then you come over here to Wildfinker, and we'll be doing everything from kind of just deep kind of immersion in nature. We're going to do an overnight hike up into like the Picos Mountains, and basically explore there, camp out. Who knows what we'll see, but it's just being there. Like for me, the big motivation of always being out there is you might see a bear, you might see a wolf, a wildcat, but just knowing they're there is kind of amazing. And they're probably watching you, and you might hear them. You'll find the signs. So that's one part of it. A lot of stuff at Wildfinker. Go looking for mushrooms as well at that time of year. Just a bit of foraging. We've got a really wild coastline. So just some hikes, lovely hikes along the coast, and then going down some of these incredible beaches. Rock pooling, which is not just for kids. Like I love rock pooling. It's one thing I definitely never grown out of. You never know what you're going to find. And just swimming in the sea and just being in nature. I think that's the main motivation of the thing. Just having a break from life and coming and seeing a different part of the world. Here, I think so many people don't realise Asturias is so close to the UK. I mean, ideally you get the ferry or the train, but you can fly very quickly, and in an hour and a half. I mean, you can be London to Santander or London to Oviedo in an hour and a half, I think it is, or maybe 2 hours. And then you can be out in the mountains within half an hour of that, 40 minutes, and seeing incredible things. So it's close. And I think hopefully, people can come and learn about rewilding and how we're doing it on a small scale, and maybe take little nuggets home and do it, or tell people about it. And then it's just, for me, it's another way of spreading the word and making the kind of wild thinker vision. There's a lovely Jane Goodall's quote about we're all bits of a puzzle, because sometimes I can get a bit down in the dumps. But if you like, we're small scale rewilding, and someone's macro rewilding in Glasgow, and someone's doing that here and there and there, and we're all doing these little bits of puzzle. And when you do a puzzle, slowly it joins up.
Who are the retreats for?
So the one with Sam is for adults. Anyone that's like, if you are able to kind of go on a relatively, like, we're doing two retreat. We're doing another retreat with someone else, which will be on our website, which will be a bit more hardcore. That'd be a 2-night, 3-day wilderness hike, camping out, and that'd be a bit tougher terrain. But the one I'm planning to do with Sam, it's not, I've taken my 4-year-old up the hike, first bit of the hike. It's not super tough. So basically, it's for all levels of people that have like a kind of okay level of fitness. If you can walk 10K on relatively flat land, you'll be okay. Basically, we're not going to push people too much. But that one's for adults. But yeah, going forward, we want to do more. So like, we've actually got people coming out in April, 2 families in consecutive weeks that are kind of coming for the Wild Thinker experience. So they're staying locally, and basically I've put like a program together with kids. So we do also offer that, is that to like get kids into nature. And then I'm going to be doing online kids things as well, which is a tricky one, but I think it makes it more accessible, because obviously people are in front of a screen doing it. But my aim is that you do half an hour with me doing pond dipping or something, and then you go out and do it for real multiple times. Sometimes you just need that little nudge.
Tell us about the Wild Finca online community.
You can sign up to on our website. You don't just have to go to the retreat. It's called like the Wild Thinker community. And every day there's something on there from somewhere. It's slowly, I don't know how many people are on it at the minute, 40 people or something. But, just people that go out for a walk and see something. And maybe you don't have friends that are into nature so much, but you don't need to be a nature expert to be on this group. It's just, someone just posts, oh, look at this amazing lichen I saw today. And one, someone might be an expert and they'll identify that lichen for you. And two, someone else, oh, look what, and it's nice because, we have people in Spain, France, Denmark. I think we had someone on the last retreat, the UK. And then we do these things. Then each retreat we do online. So we had all the autumn people from the online retreat. We do an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony on Zoom. But it was like just having a chat with your mates. None of these people knew each other beforehand. And I think the opening ceremony of the winter retreat, they actually, oh, we forgot you're like an hour ahead in Spain. You need to go to bed. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And we'd all just been sat there in front of our computers, just talking about nature and what we'd seen and what we, and it's so, some described it as like sitting around a campfire with your friends talking about stories, but actually everyone's in front of their computer. But realistically, that's not ideal but you can sit in front of your computer and not feel guilty. And then if that inspires you to go out into nature the next day or the following week or whatever, then that's it, right?
What is your happy place in nature?
There's a particular spot just down by the ponds. Forest bathing. Everyone talks about forest bathing, but grass bathing should be a thing as well. And I do this thing, so grass bathing. Well, forest bathing, you just immerse yourself in nature, right? But for some reason, it has to be in a forest. But grass bathing isn't a thing, but it should be a thing. I just go and sit, and like, if the right time of year, kind of end of May, June, the grass is kind of nearly a meter high in areas. And I just sit in it, probably get covered in ticks. That's the only downside. But like within a few minutes, you become a blade of grass, and you suddenly notice like the butterflies coming past, or like a little soldier beetle climbs up the grass blade next to you and flies off, or bird, and like that is very much my happy place, just becoming part of nature and sitting and watching and seeing what happens around you. And you can pass many an hour, and it's very productive for the mind.